Hello, my name's Richard Diver, and I'm joined by my colleague Rin Ewer, author of the SOC Process Framework. This is the final video in an 8-part series, and in this video, we're going to take a deep dive into SOC actions. We've shown you this before in one of the previous videos, but now we get to go deeper. We recommend that you follow along, so open up the workbook in your own Azure Sentinel. If you need to pause the video, do that now, and then come back and join us when you're ready to go. All right, hopefully you're back. Rin, I'm really interested in this one. I think this is going to be great to help analysts. They get the alert come in, and inside of the alert, they're going to see the steps they should take, and it's customized by alert. It's fantastic. Looking forward to seeing it. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, good call out there. It really is. I think this is where I'm excited. I'm excited for this last series. I'm excited to really dive into some of the deeper technical details of how this framework works around SOC actions. We're combining the playbook, this Get SOC Actions playbook. We're combining a watch list that has our actions defined within that watch list. And we're also combining the SOC actions here that you're seeing within the workbook. So as Richard talked about, right, open the workbook, make sure that you're on this section. This is the SOC incident actions. So that's this area here where we've kind of got a nice highlight of different actions that are called out here. And then this is kind of our central source of truth. We're putting those SOC actions to play so that if you need a library of where those SOC actions are in a quick glance, you can see them here. But we also have them stored in that watch list, which we're going to show you in a second. But also in the playbook, though, is kind of it's a blanket, if you will. The workbook gives us the incident analysis procedure, if you remember that. So under the incident response section, or excuse me, analytical process and procedure section, we have the incident analysis. And so under analytical process and procedures, incident analysis, this is where we're giving you that incident analysis procedures and the steps there. And this is tied into the playbook. So the steps that you saw earlier in the Get SOC action or incident actions, those steps are built into the watch list. And then these steps are built into the playbook. And the playbook is doing a lookup to the watch list to go pull to see if that has been an onboarded use case, a scenario that an analyst needs to follow and triage according to the steps that have been prescribed. Otherwise, this is the incident analysis steps that are giving them the questions and the steps they need to consider should that alert be, in their queue. They need to do it. It's definitely a critical alert, right? But it's not necessarily been onboarded with prescriptive recommended actions that they take, okay? So we're going to give you kind of an example of what that looks like. So this is the workbook section. So now we're going to dive into the demonstration portion. All right, let's get to it. Here I have an alert. This is a custom alert. This is SharePoint OneDrive files to an external resource. This is an alert that we built. We as GBBs built for our customers, built for consumption to be shared back to our community, right? And so within this, we have a lot going on within this alert. And so you can kind of see, I'm going to move you up here, Richard. You can see we've got some entities and some things that we know are going on. We know this is a set 3. We know this is a triage. It's been under investigation. It's assigned to me, and so it's active, right? And so let's kind of dive into this a little bit further. Okay, right now there aren't any comments, right? There isn't anything here other than what is being shown in the timeline of what I know has occurred, but nothing to tell me what next steps I need to take. And that's really where the Get SOC Actions playbook comes to play. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you what this looks like from the initial run of the playbook, and then we're going to go add steps for this alert, and then we're going to show you once we've added those steps what can happen, and this is kind of exciting. All right, so when we click Run Playbook here, we're going to go after and say Get SOC. And this is our Get SOC actions we're going to run. So we're going to run that, and that's been successful. We'll come back to our incident and we'll refresh. So now we have one comment, And you'll notice that this was not onboarded, right? The playbook didn't know about it, and so it used that incident analysis procedures that we're calling out right here. Here's the incident analysis procedures. And so we're pulling this information out of the process framework, and we've pushed the incident analysis procedures into the comment section so that an analyst can step in, step 1, 2, 3, additional questions, step 4, and any workflow procedures that they need to accommodate. Okay, so that's what happened with this because it's not been onboarded. Well, what happens when we onboard it? When we know what steps we need to take? Well, what we've done here is we've built out some steps that we're going to add. So inside here, we have our SOC recommended actions watch list. Okay, this is what the playbook is looking to make sure to make that distinction of, is it onboarded, is it not onboarded, and what do I send the analyst? Okay, so for here, we want to edit that watch list. So we come into watch list, we click on our SOC recommended actions, and we edit the watch list items. And in here, we want to add new. Okay, so we have new steps that we want to take. We're going to say add new, and we know what our alert is. So we're going to go grab our alert name, copy, paste, and then we're going to step in for each one of these steps. So this is step 1, and this will be step 2. And this will be step 3. Step 4. Step 5. And step 6. Then we highly recommend down at the bottom, you add a date. So, you know, for all intents and purposes, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to say something like, I don't know, let's do 8/2/21, and we'll click add. So this adds our updated alert. We've now onboarded SharePoint with our 6 steps, and we now have our dates down below. And if you want to change the formatting on that, you can just come in here and click this, and you can say, you know what, I didn't follow the same formatting as before, so we'll make that update. And so that's now been changed, and we'll click save. So now we're going to save that. So that's been saved, and we have everything that we need right within here. So this is awesome. Okay. So now we're going to come back here, and we're going to do a refresh because I do have a couple of tabs open. But this time on our alert, we're going to go run that playbook one more time. So there's our playbook. Let's run it. So that's been run. Let's go back to our incident and do a refresh. We should now have 2 comments in there. But now, look at that. It's been onboarded. So where before the system didn't know that it was onboarded, and so it gave us the incident analysis procedure to step through, now it has been onboarded with recommended steps to follow. So now an analyst can step in through each of those 6 steps. So this is how easy it is that once you have that workbook or that playbook turned on, that you can go in and edit those recommended actions. So now we've got our two comments, right? One where the system didn't know and added the incident analysis procedures, and one where the system did know what that alert was as it's been onboarded, and the recommended actions identified, right, by the appropriate owners that knows that line of business and how to protect those artifacts, how to protect this. So now I have an analyst that knows what to do. They need to identify who shared the artifact. Okay, well, let's actually step through these a little bit. So let's identify who shared the artifact outside the company. Well, we can quickly see that, My bad, I did, right? So my user shared something outside of the company. And when we come back and we look at what was shared, we can also ask the questions, where was it located? Was it confidential? Was it protected? And we can kind of step into that. We can see that in my SharePoint, it was my personal. It was setting up a Azure Information Protection and CAS integration. So it was a document that was shared, and it looks like it was shared with two Gmail accounts outside of the company with a public IP of this. So we can see that this was shared outside as well, with that IP. So now I have all of the information where that artifact lives, as well as who it was shared to, and from whom it was shared. So this is really fantastic. So I have all of that information, and now I can step in and go, okay, we probably need to have a level of education series with this individual to help them understand when to apply protection, information protection to the policy to protect that artifact, right? And then we should probably go through and apply that if it was determined that that artifact had confidential information. So apply that. And then as a larger initiative, apply an information protection policy company-wide, right? If this is going to continue to happen within the company, these alerts are going to continue to fire. So we want to make sure that a larger initiative is kicked off, right? And that we're delivering on the remediation portion based on this alert and knowing that confidential data was shared outside of the company that could impact that line of business. So all of these things are important. And then last but not least, if we can recall that artifact, doing so if possible, right? And making sure that we're kind of walking through those steps, keeping in mind that sometimes artifacts are shared where protection isn't offered, that artifact is then gone, right? But being able to make sure that protection is applied early on before the sharing of that data then provides us the capabilities of doing recalls, of making sure that it's protected, making sure that the artifact is indeed being mindful of who's it being shared with.
Yeah, this is really good to see, Rin. And I think obviously the next steps might be that the SOC analysts might not be able to take out these actions themselves. They can forward the alert on to somebody else, raise the ticket into a system that another team can take care of. They can see the steps that have been taken to do the identification, see the entities, carry out the actions they need to, and then send it back before closing it and finishing the loop. Very good.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of the first portion of this walkthrough, really is covering the recommended actions part, how to apply it, how to really, apply it in a way that's customizable to a managed service provider, to an in-house business, right? And that was a gap that I think I heard loud and clear from the customers that I spoke to, was how do we lower the bar in operationalizing the day-to-day life of a SOC analyst? This definitely accomplishes that. It allows a SOC manager to drive home the right process during an incident response procedure and call out during an incident that they're triaging. Now they know prescriptively what it is that they need to do and apply the right contextual knowledge during an incident. And I think that was some of that contextual knowledge that comes from business to business and vertical to vertical that oftentimes gets overlooked, right, when we're building out products and we're providing the operational use of those products. And so now we've built a way to really bring those two together.
Yeah, and I think if I look back to my days as well, when I was working on a help desk, you don't always know the right team to send it to. And you end up with this ticket tennis where you bounce the ticket to somebody else to deal with, they send it back for more information, and you end up in this loop where nothing gets done because nobody knows who should be dealing with it. So that's part of what we're talking about in previous videos about looking at your KPIs, understanding where is time being wasted. In security, we don't always have the luxury of time to work out what we should do next. We need it to be as rapid as we can to the right team to take actions. If it's out of the control in the hands of the people looking at the ticket initially, level 1, level 2, level 3, or third-party teams, internal or external. So, and business changes all the time. Suddenly what was being done last week, now it's different. What if it's in one of your cloud services? What if it's in, again, a third-party service? You can't deal with it directly. So updating these informations inside the ticket means we don't have to go back and look at another list somewhere or ask around through email or IM or Slack channels or however you do it and ask everyone else what you should do next. It should be well defined inside of this. Brilliant functionality. As I think we said it before, I don't think people would have thought about using watch lists like this. So I'm really glad we're able to cover it here and to go and experiment. It's as good as your imagination is.
I love that. Yeah, well said, my friend. Well said. All right, well, this next section is more or less walking through the playbook itself, kind of giving you the in details around how the playbook was architected. It's a pretty simple playbook, but let's kind of dive into it. So jumping over to the GitHub repo of this playbook, you can see here the GitHub Azure Sentinel GitHub repo. You can come into playbooks and under Git SOC actions, this is where you would deploy that. So let's kind of expand on that a little bit. There we go. So you can kind of see right where this is. So this is the location of this playbook inside the GitHub repo. And then you can also see the buttons for both commercial Azure and Gov Azure for the deployment of this playbook. All right. Once you have the playbook deployed and stored in here, you can come in and edit the playbook within the Logic Apps Designer. You can see it's a pretty simple playbook until we get into the condition section. And there's quite a lot to take in. But for the first part, we have a trigger, and the trigger is the alert, right? It's that Sentinel alert that comes in, and that's our trigger. We're leveraging all of the information from that alert and that alert name, and that's what we're doing our lookup on is that Sentinel alert. We're going and pulling in the information from the alert and the incident, and then we're doing a query. So this query, this is our get watch list query. So if you'll remember, get watch lists, the operator for KQL, for get watch list, leverages the get watch list alias known as SOC RA. So I'm going to kind of highlight this right here. So this is SOC RA, and you can see that. And then where alert name equals the alert display name, and that alert display name is coming from the information that we're pulling from the alert itself. So we have an alert name, and if we come back to the watch list area, you can see that we have alert right here, and that alert name in this column of the watch list is going to match the alert display name that we're pulling in from the alert incident information. So we're doing a match on these two. And that's what we're doing. And then time range is UTC now. So we're looking to drive it now, right? Like it's executing now. And so that's the time that we're attaching as our time range variable UTC now. That's our function. Once we have that information, then we can step into our condition. Our condition is quite simple. We're looking to see if the run query and list results is empty. So what that means is if this get watch list to the alias name of SOC RA, right, and the alert that we see in the alert column right here for this watch list did not return a known alert that matches on the alert display name, that it's then empty and we're going to do something different. So if it's empty and it's not been onboarded, we are going to go pull back that incident analysis procedure. And in here, we have a compose function within our logic app, which allows us to build out HTML, which makes it really nice because we can then use the HTML formatting to do italics and bold and do the type of text formatting that we want to make it nice and pretty as it lands inside the comment section of our incident. So this gives us the ability to go pull back all of that information that you may store in the incident analysis procedure. So What does that mean for you? It means that you can go customize that section of the workbook and plug and play other incident analysis procedures that snap to your line of business. And then once you have that, you've got that defined, you grab that information, you come into this section of the workbook and you update that section. That's simple, right? You just follow the same HTML styles so that you're capturing the essence of the information that you're passing from the incident analysis procedure. Then, because we know it's empty and this is the information that we're pushing from the incident analysis procedure, we grab the output of the compose. You can see that compose is this here. And so when I mouse over it, compose is this, the contents of compose, that is what is being pushed into our comment section of our incident. Pretty straightforward. Now, what happens if it's not empty and it's been onboarded? Well, then it gets really fun. So we take and we parse out the value of the string and of the information that we're pulling from the get watch list. So we do a parse JSON for the values of that. And then we do a for each for the body of the information for each of the data sets that we're pulling back. Within that, we're then delivering on whether or not it is empty, and we know it's not. And we do a compose to HTML output. This is a little bit more complex because now we still are using an HTML output, but what we're doing is we're storing each of the items that we've pulled from our for each. In this case, we're pulling out the alert and every one of the steps. So A1 all the way down to A19, and then publishing out the body in HTML. The output of that, right, which is then our compose HTML, is then being stored in the comment section of this playbook. So that means that it's very flexible. It means that if you feel like you need more than 20 steps and you need to go add in additional steps, you have all of this here for you to be able to modify. You can see exactly how it's called out in the JSON. If I need to, increase the number of steps here, I can pull those out within my properties, right? And I also have them listed out there within my required. So I can update that section. And then I can update this section here if I need to add in additional steps. If I've added those steps into the watch list and I'm calling those out. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy to customize and really make this playbook your own so that you're delivering the right SOC actions for your analysts to deliver on during their incident response process. All right, thoughts on that, Richard?
That's it's pretty excellent, isn't it? I like the flexibility. And apart from adding the steps inside of an alert, I take it this kind of approach of using a playbook and the logic app designer and even maybe watch lists. There's plenty of other things you could do with this as well, right? I don't have to think of it right now on the top of your head, but this is one example of many things you can do with extensibility and using your imagination again. So just encourage everybody to go out there, give this a try, get this working. This will help you make steps towards, again, doing anything else you need to do to make life easier and get faster.
Absolutely. I think that's really what it's about, is it's about your imagination, and it's about bringing the right process, through imagination and applying it to your business that can drive impact and then can be repeated, right? That's really what we want to do here, is we're trying to drive tools and processes and get you to think about how to lower that bar for the day-to-day operations that your analysts are going to take within our ecosystem. And so it's been really fun through this series, working through the SOC Process Framework, talking through how to triage, how to apply it, annotation stages through tagging, how to think through what those processes may be as we're stepping in and delivering on our incident response process overall. What does that look like? And then calling things out like this playbook that augments the easeability to delivering the right actions an analyst needs to take, because now we have it automated. It's like, okay, cool. I'm a SOC manager. I can go in, I'm partnered with a SOC engineer who is onboarding new content. And I'm working with my business owners who's given me the requirements I need to onboard their data and the requirements I need in order to monitor their data. And so now with those requirements, I'm building out the type of remediation steps I need to take and the recommended actions I need my analysts to take. So it's that we're giving you that repeatable process all through tooling within Azure Sentinel that now you can just easily snap to, build it out, add to it, and install this framework, add to it, and you're off to the races and running. And now your analysts can immediately start to take advantage of onboarding these use cases and the things that we're giving you out of the gallery of analytics and the gallery of workbooks and the gallery of hunting queries, and they really can make it their own. And that's really what we've set out to try and achieve with this framework.
Well, Rin, thank you very much. It's been a great 8-part series, a lot of fun learning with you. I've certainly learned a lot about it. I think we've also tried to share the best we can around the range of scenarios where this might get implemented, from in-house teams to managed security services. So whichever path you take or whichever team you join, think about this, come back to it and review the process. And maybe if there's new feature updates, go back and look at it again. So what we've done here is we've put in a couple of links to look at the SOC Process Framework itself. There's also a community blog on these AKA links. So pause the video, capture those, go have a look, join the conversation. We'd also really appreciate your feedback. If you have any more ideas on things that can be improved, or you'd just like to give general feedback for the next time we do something like this, we're going to put our LinkedIn profiles on the slide. And so if you'd like to reach out to us and talk to us, please do. We're open to talk about anything to do with SOC and security and improving processes, and maybe we can lead you on to other things you might want to learn about next as well. So thank you again. Thank you, Rin. Thank you to the production team for helping us put this together, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for watching this series. We have enjoyed being a part of this world with you. We have enjoyed sharing our thoughts and our knowledge around the SOC process framework. And we look forward to continuing to elevate you in this process, in this world. And we thank you for watching.